Welcome to the Parenting with Grace and Grit podcast, where every week we discuss behavior and the top 3 strategies we, as behavior analysts, suggest to work on it. Hey girl, Lauren, how you doing?
Seriously. Hi.
Good to see you. Now,
You too.
today we're going to be talking about something that everybody dreads, and that's going to the doctor. And this can be really scary for kids, even if they've been many times, especially if they've had a bad experience. I think it's still really scary for a lot of adults. You know, men never make doctor's appointments.
Oh, that's why we live longer, I guess.
Let's go. So I'm really good. But yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. 3 strategies on how to prepare your child for the doctor's office.
And first is our favorite. Talk about it. Set those clear expectations. And use a social story. Social stories are meant for this. We've gone over it in the past, but a social story is basically like a manual. It tells your child exactly what's going to happen, what to expect, what they can do. And so you will list all of that stuff in a story. If you don't want to make it, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help with that. But you just talk about who is the doctor? Why are they going to the doctor? Is it just a checkup? Do they have an ear infection? What is it? What's going to happen? If it's a regular checkup, the doctor's going to feel your belly and look in your eyes and your ears and listen to your heart. They might take your height, your weight. Maybe you look and see what shots, if any, they're going to need that day so you can be prepared. And you can talk about how they might feel. It might feel scary, and that's okay. You can tell them that. I recommend telling them that it might be scary. And if you feel scared, these are what you can do. You can hold mommy's hand. You can sit on my lap. You can do whatever. And then what's going to happen after? We're going to go to the doctor, but then we are going to go have a really special lunch together, just something to end that portion of your day nicely, even if they got shots. So basically, we just want to talk about it ahead of time and prepare them as much as possible for what they're going to be experiencing, whether that's what's going to happen, what they're going to be feeling, what you're going to be doing, who's taking them, all of the things.
Yeah. And strategy 2 is kind of a play off of strategy 1. But if you just have a child that's definitely not going to sit and listen to a story, another thing that you can do is just practice. And especially if you have little kids, they're going to thoroughly enjoy playing pretend doctor with you. So get a play doctor's kit, pretend to be at a doctor's office, go through what it might look like, pretend to listen to the heart, look in the eyes, ears, etc. And when you do practice, it is good to go ahead and model some of those more uncomfortable parts of the visit that they might experience with the doctor, such as them them having to get naked, or them, having to look in their diaper, underwear, just so that they get used to what that might feel like, or be like when they're in the doctor's office. Because I think a lot of times we pretend those other parts, and then it makes it so uncomfortable when they actually have to do the uncomfortable parts in the doctor's office. Another thing that you can do is show pictures of the office that you might be going to. You can pretend to be the name of the doctor that they see. Your kids will probably think that's funny. My kid loves when I use different voices when I'm a doctor. So just, maybe changing your voice just to make it fun. And to just continuously practice it over and over again can make such a big difference on how that's going to be when they actually get there.
Yeah, I think the pretend play is super helpful. And then you can also let them do all the things to you too. And then it's just a little bit less scary because they have control over it. And then as far as getting their clothes off and stuff for those checkups, maybe bring a little sweater that they can just kind of wrap around themselves while they wait, or a blanket or something like that, just to kind of help, because those offices are not very warm usually. So, just something to make it a little more comfortable. And then our third strategy is to get through it. So you're there, you've prepared as much as you can, but obviously there's still something that may happen. And so we're just going to get through it and be super encouraging. bring something special. I mean, I just mentioned the blanket. Maybe it's a special blanket that they really love and that is really comforting for them. Or there's a book they really like, whatever it is, a comfort item or just a play activity. Bring that with you so that they can kind of have something to hold on to while they're there. Give them a lot of praise, give them a lot of encouragement, just keep reminding them that they can do this. It's going to be okay. And then it's going to be over with and you're going to move on. I think as parents, sometimes we get a little bit frustrated if our child, might really lose it in public. That's okay. I mean, the pediatrician's obviously very used to that. So just, don't get mad, don't get frustrated, or at least don't let them see that. Just get them to cooperate as much as possible and then tell them what a great job they did when it was over. Even if they completely fell apart, give them something, tell them something, they did survive it. They got through it. So give them grace, give yourself grace. It might not go perfectly. It might be an utter disaster where you have to hold them down. I've been there. But we got through it and then everything was okay. Well, an hour later, once she settled, everything was okay.
Mm-hmm. And also going back to just practicing, or when you're, going, what Lauren's saying too, if you do, have a child that has those sensory needs or maybe has like an autism diagnosis or something like that, definitely advocate for your child. I would think that your pediatrician probably knows this, but if it's a sick visit, maybe they have to see someone else. And when you're practicing, make sure that you incorporate those things that they really struggle with. So, if it's like they don't like something coming close to their ears, you can practice doing it really slowly. Just keep practicing it over and over again. Practice getting the shot close to them. Of course, we can't really like emulate that perfectly at home, but just those things that you can really practice and get your child used to that so that it's a little bit easier when they do go into the office. And then when you're in the office advocating for your child and telling the doctor like, hey, when you do check his ears, it's like a sensory issue for him. Like, could you please like do it really slow and tell him when you're going to be touching his ear so he can anticipate when that's happening. Just those kind of things can really help. And then bringing those treats for them. Those treats.
Bring those special things.
Bringing those special things and just giving lots of praise and encouragement and getting through it.
Yeah, you can prepare perfectly, but if they're having an off day or whatever it is, it could affect it. So grace for everybody.
Absolutely. And I will say the rewards really can help. I know we talk about it all the time. You guys are going to be sick of hearing it. You guys are going to be our inside jokes for Grace and Grit podcast. Talk about it and use rewards.
It's data-based. We promise. We're not just pulling it out of our butts. You said poop on a podcast. I said butt. It's great.
So my daughter recently had to get shots and she, we did all of these things. We talked about it. We practiced. And of course she was scared when it was happening, and she's still pretty young. So she doesn't really understand, like I'm going to get a shot, whatever that might be. And then when it happens, of course, it's so emotional and it hurts. And, she got a bravery badge, and I actually brought a chocolate coin for her. She's really into those right now. So I immediately gave her the chocolate coin, told her how well she did. And then the nurse let her pick out a lollipop. And when we were leaving, she was like, I love doing that. So, it really can make a difference when you try to take those extra steps to make it go smoother. That's what I was going to say too, is there's so many episodes now on all kinds of popular shows that show doctor's visits and what it might be like and that sort of thing. So if your child has never really been, or, is now cognizant of what a doctor's visit might be like, it's really great to show them those episodes and then also incorporate the practicing and all those other things.
Yeah, I will say it kind of sneaks up on you when they finally understand it. So, like, they're totally chill and then you don't expect it. And I had one doctor walk in and he was like, I feel more bad for mom right now because my daughter had been losing it for 30 minutes, banging on things, screaming and crying. And he walked in and was like, what is going on in here? So, just try to keep that in mind. Like, they might be going along just fine for all their well child checks. And then all of a sudden they're like, what am I doing here? This is terrible. And Yeah. Gotta prepare better next time.
It's so hard when they're sick because they're just already miserable and then they're at a place that they don't
Mhm.
like. So it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now it's time for our Grace and Grit guidance segment where we give advice to situations pertaining to topics from the listeners. It's always anonymous. And if you want to write in, you can email us at graceandgritbcs@gmail.com. Hey, Grace and Grit, my child does a great job with the actual visits, but lately wait times in the waiting room are so long and my child ends up losing it. I get so stressed out and I'm not sure what to do. It's tough. The waiting is so bad because at doctor's offices, you're always waiting. You're waiting to get back into a room. You're waiting in the room. You're waiting to see the doctor. There's so much waiting required at these types of visits, and it can be super stressful as a mom.
I will say that, first of all the other kids, like they're seeing this all day long. So I wouldn't be too stressed about like what anybody there is going to think, because probably the parents are just like praying that it's not their child next. They're not judging you. They're just like, I get it. I've been there, and like I'm just really holding on for dear life. The people in the office have probably been seeing meltdowns all day. I always try to make my appointments super, super early. I know that's not always possible for everybody, but I try to get them as early as possible so there's not time for backups and we can just get in. Um, but otherwise, we're going to say the same thing. Reserve something special, a new activity or a new toy, or just something that they haven't seen in a while for that time, so it will keep them interested a little bit longer. I think we've probably talked about this in the car ride episode and the airplane episode, but if you can tuck something away, you have an appointment coming up, you can kind of tuck something away that they really like and save it, bring it out when you're there. They're going to be much more likely to play with it longer than if they've had access to it. And worst comes to worst, Miss Rachel, Blippi, Paw Patrol, all the favorites on the YouTube. Am I 85? All the favorites. But if you have to use the phone, tablet, or whatever it is, pull it out if you need it. And if they fall apart, it is really stressful. I mean, I guess the goal would just be to kind of get them pulled together before they actually have to go through like the next stressful part of the actual visit.
For sure. And if you know that your child loses it when you offer technology, then that can be your, special reward. Like, okay, as soon as we're done, so bring those other activities that, maybe like the water well books or whatever it may be. Play with those, try to entertain them, praise them for when they're waiting and doing a good job. Tell them that they can earn the, tube, the tube time.
The YouTube.
They can earn the YouTube time after, the appointment or after they see the doctor or whatever it may be. And hopefully that can help you a little bit with the waiting times. But it is really difficult with all the waiting times that going to the doctor requires, for sure.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
Parenting's hard. Just all of it. But we really hope to help in some way. So if you have more questions about doctor's visits, we'll have episodes about the dentist and haircuts and all of those things coming up too, because we know those can also be really difficult and scary. So if you have any specific questions, please let us know.
Yes. Thank you, guys.